She is a Lexus, but hear me out. It has a very important thing going for it, and it's one of my favorite engines. And there's a specific generation you want to work with, and that is 1992 1UZ FE, which has the thicker rods. This right here should be a very skookum engine. They generally last like 290 to 500,000 miles, so they are built to take abuse. Few new things. I don't know if the coolant system works in this thing or if the sensor's just wrong, but a few more features, you know. I think the heat works. I'm not 100% positive. As you can see, nothing's really working. It's got a sat nav. That's neat. I don't know how to work that thing. It doesn't seem to want to cooperate. Too bad it doesn't tell me how fast I'm going, because I'm not going 60, but it's telling me I'm going 60, and I'm not going 8,000 RPM. So, you know, it's the little things in life, guys. Features, and the smell. We'll call it unique. It's very unique in here, as you can see. Very unique in here. And can't see out the windows. The tint's so thick on it. It's not so bad right now, but you would think with tinted windows, you know, the sun and everything wouldn't be a problem. But the tinted window in this car, it's a special kind of tint. When the sun hits it, you can't see through it at all. It's just one giant glare. And yeah, that's neat. So the first thing we're going to want to do is go ahead and remove where the horn is. Now this, of course, does not have an airbag in it, so we just have to go ahead and get to the 3 screws. We're going to go ahead and use our puller, set this up. Two hours later, all right, slide that right in there. I had to do a slight modification to the original clip here. This one was already cracked, so not too worried about damaging this any further than it already had been. Went ahead and I actually soldered in the original connector off of this thing that went on the piece for the SC400. We just slide that right up inside here. Perfect. Now all we have to go ahead and do is bolt this to it with the original nut that was on here. And once that's on there, we'll be able to put the finishing plate and the steering wheel. Now once we get a battery put in here, which we are going to be moving the battery to the trunk, once again for better weight. Leveling, balancing, there you go. Also, clean up the engine bay a little bit. I mean, these cars are already pretty small. We want to make sure that they're not so darn cluttered. Part of the reason why we're getting rid of the ABS. Other part is because I just really can't stand it. Alright, how's our wheels? Are pretty straight. Oh. Fries are done. Well guys, that is a awesome upgrade. Technically downgrade, but an upgrade for us because we're looking for performance. Not only did we free up the actual firewall and clean up the engine bay a little bit by getting rid of the giant octopus that weighs just about 10 pounds, but you have to also thank the tubing. You know, we have substantially less tubing going across, no longer have the electronic module for it, and because we don't have some of the other electronic modules on this side, you know, that's gone. So the wiring is all tidied up. At least it's out of the way, it's out of the mind. It looks a lot cleaner. It doesn't have just, it did the same thing on the other side. Of course, we still have things in here for now. Eventually we will do the body wiring harness over, but for now we're still going to have the fuse box there. The engine actual wiring harness will go through here, and obviously we need this because windshield wipers are important. Obviously we need heat because if we have a rainstorm, I did that with a couple of my Supras, and then we had a a kind of cold, rainy day, which I don't know, the humidity made it so I couldn't see. So being able to defog the windows, that's very important. And we're still going to run AC in this, so that will be there. But there's a lot of other things that are gone, and I'm really excited about it. Because even back in the day, I would just take the fuse out for the ABS, and it was still squishy. It wasn't really, for autocross, I'm glad it's gone. Today, we want to make sure we get some real miles per mile with this car. Now, we're putting this a V8 in this because everything needs a V8. But we want to make sure we have the ability of doing some pretty epic skids. Now, from the factory, these guys come, well, this one, of course, is actually was the highest model for this particular car. Turbo, blah, 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 blah. Actually came with the automatic, not the manual. We converted the manual over a few years ago. But the differentials in these are 373 gears, and they put the larger gear ratio, or in the base model cars. So the chances of finding an absolute base model Supra is pretty slim, but we just happen to have one very local being parted out, and the differential was still in it. Now, not only are they both limited slip, but this one here is a 430 gear. So this, and the cool thing is you can take the height of your tire, your whatever drive gear you're running with, whether it's fourth, fifth, whatever, but in final gear, you're 1-to-1 in this car. And then you take your gear ratio, and you can actually find out what you're going to be at as far as mile per hour at a certain RPM. In this particular thing, you're looking at around 57, 58 miles per hour at, I think I have it at 2,700 RPM, something along those lines. But the biggest concern was going to make this not really drivable on the highway, but I'm pleasantly surprised with the situation we have. And cleaned up really nice. It wasn't leaking. The only thing was the actual bolts were pretty gnarly. So after getting them from Bangington Toyota, they were only like 25 bucks for all of them. I knocked the old ones out. I kept these in the freezer for a few days. Then I just put this big nut on here and then tightened it up. Oh, sorry, actually no. What you have to do first is you gotta get it started. So you push them on, you tighten that on. Once that's on, it's still not enough. You gotta slide this guy on, then tighten this up, and then what you'll end up getting is it pulling it all the way through. So, as far as I can tell, this is a great differential. They're not known for failing. The car was low mileage, so she was a bit rusty, but needle scaler, like I showed you last time, cleaned it right up. You gotta love those needle scalers. It definitely produces a lot less dust and debris throughout the whole garage, and it's more just localized. So let's go ahead. It's pretty simple. You have 4 bolts, two on the top, 2 on the bottom, and then 2 up in the front. So 4 on the back, 2 in the front. And then before you take that, I recommend taking all these bolts off, or nuts off. That way when you drop it down, you can slide it right off. And then we're going to use the jack to safely drop it, scooter out of the way, put this one on, and then halfway up you should put your axles back on it, and then right all the way to the top. I really like these independent suspensions because they are great for autocross, and I'm really looking forward to using this not only as a nice daily cruiser type car, but I loved driving these things when I was younger as autocross. They're really good at it. They're still a little bit rear end happy, and I'm sure this car definitely will be even worse, but it's going to be a good time. So let's go ahead, get them swapped out. battery will be here, and as you can see, it runs through here. This is actually from our buddy Rich, hooked us up with it from a Saturn Ion. So a little bit of GM inside here in a few spots. But we're going to be putting it in the center so that we don't have to have one on either side. We can just put it right there because, yeah, balance. We ran the actual line right here, and eventually it will be fastened right there so it doesn't rattle around or anything. But we ran the line underneath the stock wiring harness, goes right through here, follows this right here, and goes through there. Now, it continues through the firewall in the OEM location for our wiring harness. Now, we do need to, just for now, just kind of package these up because we're not going to use any of those. But again, I don't want to do anything too evasive to this quite yet. So, turn the flashlight on. And you can kind of see, we can get in here, where we're coming through the grommet right there. So that is a watertight, rodent-tight vapor barrier. Perfect, just like OEM. And you can see it runs up through here, follows the OEM path of the wiring harness. I don't know if that was, I think it just bumped you guys against the car, but it goes through into the engine bay there. Once it goes in here, that's not where the GM ends. We have a piece out of a LS engine, or off of an LS engine, where eventually this will meet up to this and we'll be able to power the car off of it. Onto the 1UZ and the modifications. One, I pulled you're going to need a set of really tight hugging manifolds, or headers. In our case, we're using headers. These are PPE ones. They came with the car I'm using as the donor, so I probably would have gone for something else because of how expensive these are. They are in the realm of $1,300, and I didn't like the bracket that sat on it. The flange is freaking huge, so I just chopped that off. We're going to go ahead and weld a different bracket on that. Hopefully we'll do that this week. We have to still put a clamp on this one and this one, but we'll go through all the things you should do to get rid of Uncle Sam's meddling to your engine. So first, obviously we deleted the AC. So for now, we'll eventually put it back on there, but for now, no AC. There is this being out of a SC400. You have a hydraulic pump here for your fan. If you do not do anything about this and you just kind of use it as an idler, it will seize up on you. 100% will seize up on you. And the reason why it will is because this is completely detached from the engine other than a few bolts. There doesn't share any oil or hydraulic fluid from anything but the fan that it was on it. This guy right here, it will seize up. It will you'll burn through your belts. It'll be terrible. Fortunately, if you just take it off, you can block it off if you want to. You make a little plate, put it on there, bolt it on there, never worry about it. You have plenty of room. Just take it off. Yeah. Now, if you're going to run your AC, there's a few things you can do. So what I would recommend is you can get the LS400 clutch fan bracket and then just get the pulley on there as well. Or if you're pulling this out of an LS400, you don't have to worry about it. Unfortunately, that $100 part is the least of your concern because your oil pan, which I have two of them for the SC400s, are totally different and they will not clear your lower cross member. So I would start off with an SC400 1UZ, strip this if you want your AC, and replace it with an LS400 bracket. That will be your best bet. Now, 200,000 miles, both the 1UZs I've messed with in the past 4 years. This is a swap I've wanted to do for about 5 years. But about 5 years ago, I bought the first engine for this, and both these bearings were shot. Go down, press them out, put the new ones in. A lot less expensive than trying to fight them. I did go with the Japanese replacement bearings because I prefer them. I grabbed a Chinese bearing, and you can actually feel the play with the bearings going back and forth, so I figured that's probably not the highest height of tolerances. So Japanese bearing, they're better than German bearings. Yeah, anyways, boom. Other than that, this belt right here is the belt you're going to need to delete those things. It will hold perfectly aligned to where you need to be, almost exactly too, which is insane. And I know, I just set it down. Where did I set it down? There it is. A lot of people are going to be asking, what belt did I use here? Well, just to make it easier on you guys, I had it shipped into Posting Pro Auto. There you go. It is a K060605. So this is the belt I used. Get the glare off of it. If you're doing the same swap and you're wondering what belt you're going to need, that is the appropriate belt for this. And cut like almost about 1.5 feet worth of it out of there. Crazy. Do not bypass your coolant from here. The reason why I say don't do that is because if you take that out, this is your inlet. Normally your outlet would be where your thermostat is, but I don't know why I couldn't think about that. If you pull this out, your water will just go straight into your engine. And there's a bypass already here, and it'll go to your water pump, which is actually driven by your timing chain. This is just an idler. This doesn't do anything. It goes down to your water pump and then will go straight out. So you'll effectively make it so you have unlimited water going in and out right around. Not a good time. So do not delete your thermostat. Go with a cooler thermostat, fine, but don't delete it. You're going to end up having a lot of overheating problems. Now, we capped off our outlet for our water here and our water here. Make sure you have that nice and tight. Don't want it to leak. Up here, we're deleting this because we're waiting for the plates. I put a big order on parts, and unfortunately something was back ordered. And so hopefully we see these parts this week, because currently as it stands, I can only work on cars every other week right now. So hopefully it gets here in time, because I kind of planned on my week doing the swap. But if not, it'll be another 2 weeks. So yeah, block off plate, get rid of your wonderful EGR valve. You will end up having, there's different ways you can do it with the Japanese one. You can do it with the billet one. The 6061 aluminum one that I ordered actually has an outlet, so we can still use our PCV. You don't really need it if you're like drag racing, or if you're really putting this engine through its paces. But if you're going to be running it on the road, it does help evacuate the fumes around your pistons. So if you want your rings to love you, always replace your PCV. That one's coming from Rock Auto. It should be here Monday. The grommet as well, because that thing is harder than diamond. So we'll delete this, or we won't delete this. We'll replace this, put a new line. The billet one I have actually has a contingency to screw in a place so that I can collect that. And other than that, our cold start, that's deleted. You do need vacuum pressure to your fuel regulator. That is an absolute must. Thursday, we have a non-traction control intake manifold coming. I thought for some reason I had one, but apparently not. So that will be here Thursday. It was out of a 1991 LS400. So we have the new gasket, new throttle body. The reason why is because the traction control one does actually have some provisions that reduces your airflow into your engine. So if you're trying to maximize it, you can either do quite a bit of modification, and there is a great website or a great YouTube channel. I'll put a little link here somewhere where you can figure out how he does it. I prefer to just go with the non-traction control one. It was $60 plus, it was like $80 shipped. So boom, gone. Deleting your coolant that was part of your cold start, which came through here. It actually heated up your throttle body. I don't like preheating air as it goes into your engine, so obviously that's deleted. When we get the non-traction control one, we'll also delete that off of it, just shave it off, because my goal is to shave as much weight off of these as possible, with some caveats. I still want it to look fairly stock. I need to get the Toyota emblem for this. So if anyone know where I can get a Toyota emblem now, stick right there, please let me know. It's a very specific one. It's for the 1UZ. It's I don't know if it's only in the European regions, Australia, New Zealand, and Japan, but I want that right there. over through here, this isn't getting deleted. That goes part of your throttle body. Some of this is getting deleted. Eventually we'll have a custom made wiring harness, but for now I'm trying to get this thing before, or in the car, ready to rock and roll before the snow starts to fall down. I'm not deleting our heating hoses because I did that before with this car right here, and I was driving the very first weekend I had this together. I was driving to an autocross event, and horrible downpour, and I found out two things. If you're ever pulling an engine or a car out of, you know, will it start type of situation, out of a barn or whatever, first thing you need to look into is how is your windshield wipers. They were as hard as a rock, and in fact you can see the damage that it caused to the window right here, the windshield. They can polish these out. I'm hoping that there's a place I know that should be able to polish this glass and repair the two rock in there, because this is actually an original glass, and I kind of want to keep it original. So yeah, the replace your windshield wipers before you go anywhere. The other thing I learned was, what was the other thing? Oh yeah, don't bypass your heater coolant or your heater core, because if it starts to, your window starts to fog, you can't defog it. So we're not deleting these. This isn't like, I would like to take it to tracks and stuff like that, but it's not a race car. It's going to be a driver and like race car kind of concept. So anyways, keeping that. I think I already said these can now get deleted because that comes through here. And then back from your EGR, again, we deleted the EGR. There's a coolant line that goes right to here. I still need to put the clamps on it. I just don't have any small enough clamps right now. I got to go and pick them up. So yeah, again, EGR comes down to your one manifold. This throttle body is actually off of a 1991 LS400, and the reason why I went with that was because this one doesn't have the traction control. So you can see I cleaned it up already. I cut the coolant line spot on the bottom of this off, so not only does it clean it up, makes it look nicer, but yeah, it shaves, I don't know, 5 ounces or whatever, who knows. But this is what the original one looked like. So you can see there's 2 butterfly valves in here. There's another huge chunk on it. You can see the coolant base on the bottom here, that's cut off. And yeah, there's significantly more crap on this one than we need. So gone, new. We don't want any foreign contaminants in the actual transmission. Keep it clean. Wear gloves, you're going to be touching things. This particular transmission uses a form-in-place gasket. So a little bit of RTV. We're going to be using the old Permatex Ultra Black. I put the transmission at about a 45-degree angle. I'm using the drive shaft to kind of keep the oil from pouring out, because this has royal purple in it and I don't really want to lose too much of it. Before we take off the last bolt, we'll go ahead and just one last time, little. All right. We're going to hold on to this piece right here because that is used on a lot of different things. We're going to have to tap that off. Where's my hammer? Wouldn't you believe it? It was in its appropriate home. All right, leaking a little bit. So hold on to this. So I had this rebuilt not too long ago, all new bearings in it. It's a very good investment. And now we want to make sure to get all this transmission fluid oil. Wonderful. Manual transmission fluid oil. The greatest smells you'll ever ever smell line them up like so, and bolt it on. And of course, the tool I need to put these things in is what inside the box I'm sitting on. Very well prepared, guys. I am 100% prepared for what I am doing at this very moment. All right, to the next part. Next, you drive out the pin here. I was using a center punch to punch it through until I can grab it. I was able to pull her out, and this comes out. And you're going to go ahead and replace that with this piece right here. It goes ahead, slides right into place. Once you have it where you need to be, you have to reuse your pin, and you're going to just push your pin in and drive it the rest of the way through. So let's go ahead and take care of that, and I'll be right back. Once you have your pin driven in, this is nice and perfect. Not have to worry it anymore. That will get this fitting right here, like so, but not quite yet. Next, we got to go ahead and remove this guy right here. Let's see, is she 11 or is she a? She's an 11. So this becomes an extra fitting like the other one. Next, we're going to go ahead and use, where did that end up? There it is. Set this on here for now. I'm going to use this guy right here that came with the kit. We're going to want to use this side like that. Slide that on. This one looks a little bit bigger, more like a 14er. Nope. 16. Send that one home. Perfect. And that is your winner for this. So what you're going to end up having is these two lines right here. They will go onto here. You're going to want this at a 90-degree up, and we'll cover that in a second. Then this guy goes here. The reason why I have a grommet right there is because we're going to have to drill a hole through the bell housing. But you're going to have this one at about 90 degrees. This adapter has a whole bunch of choices for you. We're going to go ahead and just pick the 90 one. That will allow us to get away with that. Now you're going to use your banjo bolt, which came with this kit. That will go to your master cylinder, but we'll cover that another time. Let's see. Take that guy there. Again, 90 degree. That will allow you to bleed it. We want to get all the air out of this clutch system. So that's where we're going. Just like that. One on the other side. Send that one home. Remember, it is aluminum, too tight, two pieces. Don't pull your threads out. All right, so it's a good thing this car came with that cowl induction style hood, because I'll tell you what, just take a look at that fitment. It does get a little bit better the further you go back, but she's pretty much where she needs to be. We might be able to sneak her down a tiny bit, but as you can see, I don't really want it to get too close to the rack. I could probably drop it down about a quarter more of an inch. But tomorrow, engine mounts, get this in here. Once we have the engine mounts, we'll be able to pull this back out, leave the transmission in place, and then sling the actual engine in here. There's a lot of critical things that you have to do to make sure your engine is perfect, but before we get into that, I want to say a big thank you to all of you guys that have hit that subscribe button and that have commented and hit thumbs up over the years. Less than like 30% of you guys have actually been subscribers, so if you get a second, hit that subscribe button. What we have going on here is we have our cross member right here, our strut support. That way we can get our plumb bob down and get a center mark where we need to be. And then we balanced it out or leveled it with a level and a wedge on the bottom. So the big, very important thing, some vehicles require an offset, a pitch, or the pitch is critical for multiple reasons, especially if you're a carburetor car or you're doing a carburetor swap or carbureted engine swap. You want your carburetor to be level, so you have to figure out what that will entail. If it's a little bit over level, I guess it's not the end of the world, but that's what your target is. This is being a fuel injection car, it really doesn't matter. The second thing you have to worry about is your drivetrain angle. So this right here, I haven't measured it, but this is exactly where it needs to be. It can't be anything else. It's about a 3 to 6 degree angle, and she's tight. Now, one of the benefits of having it more angled back is when you decelerate really quickly, your oil would like to go forward. You can correct that with baffles as well as your overall engine angle. So a pitch upwards in the front will allow for a better drive shaft to transmission to differential, and that will prevent a little bit of binding or something along those lines, but also it helps prevent oil from sloshing forward. For the mounts, all we're going to do is we're going to take these guys right here. We're going to cut 2 squares out, drill our holes. This one right here, I'm going to drill or make it a little bit bigger so that I can fit a bolt right here for the electrical harness. And then it's just a matter of using some mild steel. We'll cut that, put a cap on one side, cut it to the approach angle, and give her a couple tacks, pull them out, do a full weld, and then we'll drill a hole through the plate because we're going to have to mount the rubber bushings to the mount itself, and then the mount to the engine, and then we can put the engine in, because otherwise it will totally miss what we're trying to do and it won't fit in properly. So yeah, that's what I have right now. Let's go ahead and get to work. Before I start getting into this, I want to say a big thank you to Peaceful Seas for actually hooking us up with this, and it makes a lot of these things a million times easier to deal with. So a big shout out and thank you to Peaceful Seas. We'll go ahead and get this thing knocked out in a quarter or a fraction, even less of an eighth of the time because of this. So thank you very much. One more tack weld somewhere. Can't see it for anything. That was right there. Okay. Give her a couple seconds and we'll go ahead and put a weld around that. Look at that. Pretty straightforward. 1 1/8 inch hole through the back of it so you can actually get your socket through here and tighten on the bolt. We're going to go ahead and throw that mount on there and then set it on the ground right there. I'm going to slap that together, double check all our fitment with heads and everything, and as long as we're good to go, we're going to go ahead, plop that brake booster off and throw these on the other engine and pull this engine out. Swap them out. Guys, this is a pretty big step forward. As you can see, she has a tight fitment. I took the Lexus part off of this guy to kind of see where we're at and everything. So I took the little pieces that were under here originally. I took them out because it was rubbing against the hood just ever so slightly. So by doing this, we can't put a logo on this car. Not if we want to be able to run this, and I would like to run that. The mounts are in. They're all welded up. I even went ahead and, if we go down through here, we're able to use the original heat shield and everything. There's a few things we need to take care of. One is we have to attach our pilot bearing and our flywheel. These are our ARP bolts. You're going to take the lubricant that comes with the ARP. You're going to put it around the head. The threads itself is going to get Loctite 242, and that right there is what you need to do. That's what it's calling for, and a 70 foot-pound torque specification. Pretty straightforward to install. Nothing too big. Once it's in there, we have a few things we need to kind of work around and make sure it's clearancing. I'm going to try to angle it in and see if when it lays flat it avoids the brake booster, because if I don't have to pull it, I'd rather not. Once it's in, we'll fit the transmission to it and then put our drive shaft, our shifter inside there, and get that all buttoned up as well. But other than that, it's a pretty straightforward thing to do. We'll go ahead and start with the pilot bearing. So I'm going to start out with a lubricant that's going to self-dissipate. I'd rather not have it sling stuff around here, if you know what I mean. So we're just going to give this a nice little spray. Make sure she's laying in flat. And we'll go get something to knock this the rest of the way. Once our pilot bearing's been installed, we're going to go ahead, put our nice, beautiful flywheel on, like so. And again, we're going to follow the instructions brought to you by ARP. First thing we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to put a little bit of this lubricant along the head of the bolt, like so. And then we're going to take our Loctite here, and something I recently found out, I've always put my Loctite on like this, but what ends up happening is it will clean its own threads. According to Loctite itself, what you need to do, find the hole that it goes in, you squirt a little bit in there, put a little bit on the tip there. Well, there's a little bit more than I was expecting. And when you put it in here, what will end up happening is the pressure that builds up behind the head of the bolt will actually force the Loctite out through the threads. So if you want to put this in the way that is recommended by Loctite proper, is anytime you're putting a thread into a bottom out in this situation, you put it in, and then it will actually push its way out with the pressure that's built up behind it. Again, put a little bit of this stuff on. I like wearing gloves for this because it's kind of like no locks or anti-seize. It will get everywhere. I'd still put a little bit of this on here, like so. Down inside. Slide it in. This isn't my opinion. This is something I recently learned directly from Loctite itself. So that's how you're supposed to install them. So I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of these in, and we'll be back when we torque it down. So I've already went through and I've torqued these down to 40 foot-pounds using the star method. This is the one I started with. I marked that. The next thing you want to remember is our 70 foot-pounds that we're going to be putting on this is a lubricated torque specification. That means its specification includes the 242 thread locking lubricant as well as the ARP head bolt lubricant that goes on the head. Now, if your torque specifications are for a non-lubricated torque specification, you put lubricant on it, what will end up happening is you will over torque your bolts. So if it says it does not call for lubrication, don't put it on there. But if it calls for it, that the torque specification is very important to know what it's calling for. This case, of course, this is a lubricated application, and we just make sure she doesn't want to go anywhere. We're going to torque this down to 70 foot-pounds. Oh, missed that one. All right, double check all of them. We'll do it one more time. And that's that. Now, Superstore.com didn't ask me to give them a plug or anything for hooking us up with any of the parts here. This was a pretty big order, and they actually gave us the Stage 2 clutch for free, and I really appreciate them. I've been buying parts from them for years. Lonnie over there is very knowledgeable. If you're trying to do the same swap, similar swap, or even working on any of the 7Ms, he's definitely a great guy to talk to and a great asset for pretty much any question you're going to have into. Like, the guy is fantastic. And again, a big thank you for hooking us up with the Stage 2 clutch. This is just absolutely freaking awesome. The bolts you're going to need to go to here are the M8 1.25, and they're 16 millimeters long. Get those in there nice and tight. Don't go too crazy. They'll break off, and you're going to have a really bad time. Yeah, get that out of there, and let's land this inside the car. Today is a glorious day. We've had this engine sitting here for a hot minute, and we've been just struggling with getting the wiring done. As you can see, we have a whole bunch of goodness going on here, and there was a little bit of issue with spark and stuff, but I still need to run fuel lines and stuff like that. But I really wanted to be able to hear this thing run, and let's go ahead and see what we can do. So what we're gonna do for right this second is just hit it with a little bit of starter fluid. Get this thing to stay stable here. Like that. Let's see if we can't get this thing to turn over and make some noise. She is a beast! Oh my god. Just that feeling when you get something like this together and it's the first startup and stuff, guys. What's up, everyone? Today we're doing something very special. Something that took me quite a long time for me to really start working on this project. Beforehand, life got in the way. I bought a whole donor car and the engine turned out to be no good. Things like that. And if you're working on projects, it's really something you have to anticipate or just expect that eventually it will happen. Now, last year, or maybe earlier this year, I can't remember, we picked up an SC400 for the drift truck. The suspension and everything, that was critical for that. We have a lot of work to do on that car. It is definitely a long-term project. But one of the bonuses was it came with a 1UZFE, an SC400 1UZFE, which fits, I want to say, pretty snug. Originally I said this is something that Toyota probably was thinking about putting in their car, but we'll go into the front here And it's a pretty complete vehicle. As you can see, the interior is in really good shape. Need carpet. The carpet was pretty rough, but I've owned this car for the better part of 12 years, and before I owned it for over 12 years, it sat in a parking lot. The original owner had blown the head gasket, which is pretty notorious for these cars. This one only had 50,000 miles on it, so who knows what he was really doing. He was probably beating on it. But he was an older gentleman, and unfortunately he passed away when the engine replacement was completed. And the wife just couldn't afford to pay the maintenance or the repair work on it, so she gave the owner of the shop title in lieu of payment. And for 12 years or better, this sat in his parking lot. And now, as you can see, this doesn't have the original 7M GTE. We finally finished that swap, and we'll do a recap on a lot of that right here. But one of the very first things I did when I got it was I replaced the head gasket, and I still wasn't happy with that engine. It was a stock engine. I ended up pulling it because when he swapped it out with a non-turbo version, and I believe it was an 88 or 87 version of the engine on top of that. So definitely not as strong. Had a cast crank instead of a forged crank. So I built up a 7M with a forged crank and the oil jets on the bottom of it. And I'll tell you what, it just still didn't have the guts that I wanted. And this is a swap that I wanted to do pretty much for as long as I've owned the car, but 5 years ago I got the engine for it, and I was starting to do the process when I found out the engine was no good. And when we got the SC400, which you can see back there, which is a donor for a different vehicle, this engine was very strong. I was very happy. So I figured, you guys wanted an easy swap, why not just go for it? And I'll tell you what, this thing it's snug. We have a few things we had to do, of course. We have a custom power steering line. We have custom clutch lines. We have a 1989 truck, a Toyota truck diaphragm or booster. Everything else throughout this is pretty much standard. I have to make custom wiring harness for it, so this is more the first time I'm driving it, but it's more of a test for what needs to be done besides the custom wiring harness, so we can get rid of the automatic transmission junk. One of the big things is I need new tires, because these tires do not hold air at all. But I want to go ahead and take this out before it snows, and we actually had a little bit of a scare yesterday. It was almost snowing. So we'll take advantage of the fact that these tires aren't really that good, so we might try burning them off a bit. But we can't neutral drop right now because brand new clutch. Now this thing not only is a substantially lighter engine, a substantially more powerful engine, but we also replaced the well, we had to put a flywheel on it, so we got a all aluminum race flywheel, stage 2 clutch, aluminum drive shaft, and the rear, which I'll show you part of the update is or the catch up, is a 430 diff out of a non-turbo car. So this thing is set up for just going fast, and I'm really excited about it. You guys know how much I love my old muscle cars, but one of the things I really love is 80s era cars, whether it's believe it or not, I really love the 3rd gen Camaros. I think part of it is, as far as brute force, it's one of the peak pony cars. And I think as far as technology and lightness, well, it's fairly light, and overall shape of it, I think this is one of the coolest pony cars as well. I know it came from Japan, but I absolutely love the New Zealand and Australian car culture, and with the 1UZ swap in this, I really feel like this is kind of my way of capturing, between the Rat Rod, Mad Max themed Wile E. Coyote satellite and a 1UZ swapped Supra. I really, short of getting a Holden something, whether it's like a G8 or something along those lines, I really can't capture a more Australian / New Zealand car culture car in my mind than these two here, and I'm really stoked about it. But now guys, let's go ahead, hop in here, we'll get this thing going, and we'll kind of be a little bit of a menace because this has no exhaust yet. We have to make exhaust. I am going to pull the engine and transmission back out sometime this winter so I can clean up a lot more or make things a lot easier. I'm not happy with how the clutch lines are run. I'm not happy with how the fuel lines are run, but This is definitely an experiment, and I think when we get this thing back apart, we get some paint on this thing, it's gonna be freaking awesome. So let's go ahead and no more chatting, more doing. Turn this thing on so you can see going on back. All right. As you can see, she's pretty tight. I still have some interior stuff that has to go on, but one of the reasons why I want to make a custom wiring harness, we have things integrated, so you can see key. We have things integrated, put it that way. But getting things tidy and stuff like that, the wiring loom is just substantially longer because the way that they did it in the SC400 is the ECU sits in the down there, kind of like where you see it there, and I want it to be up inside there like the original ECU. So trying to get the key out. Here we go. And I am just really, really excited. Oh yeah, guys. All right, let's go ahead and see what we can do. Guys, oh, that's so much fun. I'm so excited. We need better tires. That thing, you gotta let up. That thing is just all over the place. I mean, these tires were off the original SC400. You can see some of the photos of that when I got that out of the salvage yard. They are, I mean, they're just dry rotted to all heck. They are harder than a rock. This thing does not hold to the road. It needs sticky tires. I mean, they're wet too, that doesn't help. But yeah, as soon as I let into it, it just immediately wants to go sideways. So tires, that's the next thing we need to get is tires. You can see just how dry rotted these things are. They're just coming apart. Oh my God, guys. This is an amazing engine swap. It sounds freaking just absolutely killer. Oh my God. That's exciting. That's real exciting, guys. This has been something I've wanted to do for a very, very long time. I mean, this is my very first barn find car that I ever owned. I've owned many Supras over the years. The first one I bought when I was 14. I worked all summer hay baling and working at the Schaghticoke Fair to be able to afford it. It was $900 at the time. And I'm not saying I drove that around the old Schaghticoke. Actually, you know what? What's the expression? The statutes of limitation is long gone for that. I loved driving that down the Schaghticoke roads. I know my mom is probably going to hear that and she's going to be like, what? But I had an incredible amount of fun with that car. Unfortunately, my mom found out that I owned it and she made me sell it because she was worried about me with it. So even though I'm not really big on a lot of the import cars, this was, very first car I ever owned was a Supra. And you always get whatever your first car was. For the most part, many of us, we either regret selling it or we just become fascinated with those vehicles. And I absolutely love the body style of pretty much late 60s to mid 80s American cars. Some of the late 70s stuff I could do without, but there's just something about these cars that I just absolutely love them. The body style is fantastic. I know it's a not very popular opinion, but these are, I believe, not only made far better than the Mark IV Supras, the interior is a higher quality. And I know that the reason why the 4 is so popular is because, well, Fast and Furious. And we all love those shows, whether you like to admit it or not. We all love those movies. They're well, the first like 3, I guess, or 4. I don't. By this point, what they're making now is kind of junk. But I am just really stoked. That was just, oh my God, the weight. Okay, one of the things we need to go ahead and do before we do anything else is we got to get this over to my buddies. You guys seen the video if you haven't already. We went to the Tremont. Support Tremont at the Mr. Dirt USA, and they have a way of weighing this vehicle. I'm very curious to see where we're sitting as far as weight. But this thing is very light. This is substantially lighter than the last time I took it out on the road with the 7M, which is a very heavy cast straight 6. And this has been a long time coming, guys. This is really, yeah. I'm excited. I'm very excited. And I want to thank all of you guys, every single one of you guys that have supported the channel, that have hit the thumbs up, that have commented, and whether it is like, we've met some phenomenal people, John Wilburn, Nick from Nick's Garage, Lamb Chop, Tall John. You guys are the reason why, you guys are the reason why this is on the road. Both of these. I couldn't have done it without your guys' inspirations, and I know it doesn't seem like a lot to you guys, but oh my God, the thing is just freaking killer. I freaking love it. All right, guys, I'll show you some of the videos and the photos of the long journey I've had with this car so far, and a long journey I will have moving forward. We need to get this thing painted. There's things we need to do. It doesn't have a working antenna. I did get a second trailer or back panel here so we can do the repair on this. This is the only real rust on the car. Oh my God, guys. This is something I've wanted to do. I haven't had this car on the road. I drove it from my mom's house to my house because I had it stored at my mom's house for a very long time. But like 6-7 years ago, I drove it from there to here, and that was before I pulled the engine out. And right before I pulled the engine out, I took a video of it without the exhaust on it, just the downpipe from the turbo, and I'll show you a couple of videos of that. And don't get me wrong, the 7M and the 2JZ sound like a good engine. They do sound cool, but I mean, if you guys want to check out some really great content about this engine, you have Cartoon in New Zealand, NZ. He was instrumental to get the electronics done in this so that we could take it out, and it saved me about probably a month trying to figure out exactly what needed to be done. And he has wiring diagrams and everything for you. This car is just, especially for coming from the Northeast. I'm the second owner of this car. This is a very clean car for the Northeast. It's incredibly clean. We have very little rust in it. We have had issues with critters getting in it and all that, but man, this just made me really pumped up. Really pumped up. This engine is very awesome. Obviously we deleted all of the emission stuff. This is just freaking killer, guys. Absolutely killer. We'll get it cleaned up more. We'll oh my God, I can't even, guys. This is just, and we've done so much to it, whether it's like we got our, like, all this has to get cleaned up, obviously. This is just kind of a proof of concept to it. We have our battery relocated into the trunk. I got that, of course. Inspiration of that would be the Max Wedge. He was a freaking genius of his day. Oh, this is really cool. This is really, really cool, guys. All right, I need to mentally unpack this day. We've done so much, and I know I didn't film a lot because I was trying to do my absolute best to get it done before snow. And yesterday, like I said, we had a mixture between sleet, hail, and snow. And right now it's like 30 degrees out. It's actually, like, when I woke up, it was in the mid 20s. So it's coming very quickly. But we got to get paint on this. We have other modifications that I would like to do, and other than like this damage right here and the center console, the interior is in absolutely fantastic shape. Fantastic shape. The 430 rear end, definitely. Oh my god. Yes, this is cool. And this tire's already flattening out. I think it's this side that these tires were real bad. But yeah, oh my god, guys. I want to do something different for this. I want to box this in so that it's, one, protected from any type of power steering fluid, as well as right now it's sitting right next to all the heat. So we need to move this. I'm over the moon, guys. I don't know what else to say. I would love to do these swaps for other people, because it really changes this car immensely. Absolutely awesome. And we have so much more coming up in the spring. We're going to be 440 swapping the satellite, the Mad Max satellite. I want to make this thing even more menacing. It's definitely going to be more of a show car thing than it's going to be for drag racing or anything like that. We're going to be starting back on the GS very shortly. I know I got to start getting more parts for the engine. Mostly just like the cams. The guys over at ComCam are going to hook us up with a really good deal on that. So, yeah. I don't know. I have no other words. That's all I have for you today. I am just... Oh my god. All right, you guys. I normally do comments from you guys in the beginning of the video. I was just really, really excited. I just now remember that I didn't do that, so sorry, but I promise I'll get back to doing that. And until next time, this has been an absolute treat. You guys have yourselves a beautiful day. You guys are awesome. Keep your shiny side up, and God bless.